I have a few questions. Will my signature on the 218 protest vote be counted? Since my wife pays the water and the sewer bill, her signature's on the payment check. How do you determine a valid signature?
Is that your comments?
That's it.
Thank you very much. Amanda Rice?
Are we going to answer his question? I mean, it's an easy,
Yes,
it's an easy
please,
one to answer.
go for it. Answer it.
I think maybe the staff should answer it.
Okay.
It's a very good question.
I was trying to make sure that I understood the question, but I can probably answer it by explaining what was done. Under the legislation that implemented 218 regarding the ability of ratepayers to file protests, it allows the protests of either a tenant who pays the water bill, or if the agency, as we do, seek to get money from the real property owner. If the tenant doesn't pay the bill, the real property owner can pay the bill. So there's two circumstances. If anyone who's on the title of the property protests the rate increase, then we consider it a valid increase, a valid protest.
Yeah, Bill.
If it's a tenant customer, then the only protest signature that we would recognize would be the account holder. If the account is held in both names of two people, husband and wife or whatever, either one of them can protest. If it's only one, then only that person can protest. And that's only in the tenant situation.
For the signature, how do you determine just by looking at it? I mean, I'm a lot older than I used to be. I don't write quite as
Yeah.
But I mean, what we do, we don't claim to be signature experts. So if the signature, if we don't have an example of a customer or a real property owner signature, we don't attempt to invalidate any signatures. There were circumstances where we would receive two ballots for the same property, and the signatures from both ballots, both protests were obviously different. We knew one of those were false. But also, there are situations in our files where we actually have driver's licenses and other documents like that, copies of those things. And in those situations where the signature is so obviously different, that we invalidated those as being the true signator. I also told the people that were viewing the process that at the end, we would, if we weren't violating any confidences, show them those signatures, and so they can also see how they're so completely different. I think anyone could also testify that they are different signatures. I have, though we have not retained them, contacted a signature expert if we choose to use those services. They do cost money, but we aren't attempting to, look at fine details of it ourselves, only if they're so completely different that they're obviously not the same person.
Wouldn't it be easier just to call the people and ask them?
Well, can you imagine what that would do? I mean, we would call people and say, did you protest, did you not protest? They had an opportunity to do that. If they chose to write an X instead of their signature, they had the process to do it, and they didn't do it. I think that would just cause a
That would be
Isn't
that
also
would be
the
more
fact?
fair.
Isn't it also the fact that just as with voting, that the day you vote, that's the day you vote, and it ends at that point.
Exactly.
And that's correct, and that's the way they do with regular voting too. When they check signatures, if they don't match, even if it is the same person, those votes aren't counted. We're only doing it when it clearly doesn't match.
And that information is contained within your official notice that you mailed out?
Yes.
I mean, it specifically states the original signature of the property owner or the tenant customer.
Right. And I try to think of it within the context of when I go to the polls to vote, I have to sign my name next to a signature they already have of mine, so they know that who I am right there. We don't have that in this kind of protest. It's not a vote, but a protest statement. We don't have the access to verify that, so we have to take longer and more convoluted means to verify. Because one of the criteria, or the criteria we went by, if I'm correct, is the name of the who's paying the bill, the address and the signature of that person. Those are the criteria that they're looking for.
And
Any-
I wanted to point out also, and this may be answered part of Mr. DeVega's question, the reason we did a sampling to look at signatures, it was at the suggestion of the League of Women
Right.
Voters. They actually chose at random close to 100 protests for us to look at. And even in that case, we only could compare signatures in our files to about half of them. And even then, it was only if it was clearly something completely different that we would invalidate a
Right.
protest.
And you were doing that at the